We've gone from being, transformational with brands to being transactional. Within the transaction, you're just taking orders. When's the last time you just, had a coffee with your client? When did you show up to where they work and spend half the day there?
I feel like pre-COVID, we would do it all the time. We have to build that muscle back.
Show up. Just show up.
In today's world, how does a brand break through the noise and become iconic? Join me, Jason Harris, as I speak with the world's leading marketing experts about how they use soul and science to build an iconic brand. Think of it as EQ meeting IQ. So let's lock in and together fast forward our marketing minds on the Soul and Science podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, Soul and Science podcast. I am joined by Rob Schwartz. Today's episode is all about his next chapter in his career, which is the Soul and Science of Executive Coaching. Welcome to the podcast, Rob Schwartz. Back to coaching. Do you typically, in your coaching, let's say you take your one-on-one coaching, will the person that you're coaching, will you ask them the problem that you're trying to solve together with them? Or will, through the conversation, will you discover the issue they need solved?
Very interesting question. I love this particular framework called GROW, GROW. It's an acronym. This comes from the in advertising terms, kind of the Bill Bernbach of coaching. I'm a big believer in first principles. So I wanted to understand who invented this thing. And there's this guy named John Whitmore, and former race car driver. And he wasn't succeeding on the track. And it wasn't mechanics. It wasn't, a better engine or a better, more slick fuselage that would make him be a better race car driver. It was something in his mind. It was something in his heart, something in his soul. And that ultimately became coaching. And he was this guy who invented this framework. I just give you that context because it's important, called GROW. What's your goal? What are the realities? What are the opportunities? And then the W is, what will you commit to? So in every coaching conversation that I have GROW in front of me. And I try to get to the first opening notion of, what do you want to do here? What's our goal? What's the big goal? What's the goal today?
Do you use GROW if you're doing one-on-one and if you're doing, say, with a group? Like if you go into a boutique agency and their problem is they're stuck, or the executives don't see eye to eye, or whatever it might be, whatever the issue might be. Do you use the same framework, or is it different one-on-one than in a group setting?
The framework works for both one-on-one and group, and it works as a almost an overall landscape analysis. In fact, for the advertising people, you could use GROW in a new business pitch. When you meet the client, what's the goal? Great. What are your realities here? Great. We'll come back with some opportunities. What's interesting that happens next is, and you talked about, like, if it's a boutique agency, if it's a group, the leadership team, once we sort of understand the landscape, a lot of times with the leadership team, you need shared values, because you're not aligned. You're not aligned on, I know Mechanism has very clear and strong values, but not a lot of companies have that. Mm-hmm. And if you start to, walk the path a little bit, go beyond to, you mentioned CMOs. How many CMOs can go into their, exec-co, into their leadership team, and have all the people around that boardroom table have the same values? And I don't mean some bullshit that's up on a wall on a plaque. Really have the same values that they're held, what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's what actually can really, activate um, small, medium, large teams is a shared sense of values.
Yeah, I've always thought values can galvanize an executive team or a company because it gives you a compass to whatever goal you're trying to achieve. You can put it through your values and then say if it fits or doesn't fit.
Perfect metaphor. There's a soul and science to coaching, and you've got to know the science.
And tell me a little bit about how you see the soul and science of coaching.
The soul part, I think, is the instincts and empathy and the creativity that happens in a particular coaching engagement. But the science is that, it's a practice born out of industrial psychology. There's quite a bit of one part psychology rigor, and also just one part how coaching has been born out of this psychology, because it's not psychology, it's different. So there's the disciplines of coaching. So there is real discipline and science, neuroscience to what these conversations are. So the combination of how you're feeling instinctively, and what I like is the conclusion of some conversations into a what if. Well, what if you thought about this? What if you tried that? Is underpinned by real science.
I think of coaching a little bit like the chairman role. Like you can have a hand and you can give advice and you can create frameworks, but ultimately the person or team you're coaching, they have to do the work. They have to act on it.
Yeah.
Is there a soul and science or a methodology for keeping people honest or making sure it's on track?
Well, coaching's not about me. Coaching's about you. Coaching's about the person. I'm not interested anymore in, gathering the medals. I am really interested in the power and just the power of human potential, what people can do. And I walk into, these conversations, more like a record producer, and in particular like Rick Rubin. He's my model. He's my creative hero. And I go in, let's say it's someone like you, and I look to you that you're the artist. You have the song. My role in all this is I'm just trying to bubble that song up. I'm saying, yeah, that sounds good. What about this? Or, wow, I love what you said there. How about that? And once we have the song, and more importantly, you have the song, then I go into a little bit more coach mode and say, okay, great. How are you doing with the song? Metaphorically, how have you come up with the right arrangement? Have you come up with the instruments? Who's going to sing it? Great. When are you going to record it? Great. When are you going to get it to Spotify? Great. How does the audience feel about it? But the first part is, and again, all metaphorically, the first part is my job is to bubble up the song. That's the soul of it, I guess, literally. And then the science of it to me kicks in, which is great. Let's make it happen now.
So it's not necessarily here's advice. If I was you, I would do this. And then they take it or leave it. Because a lot of times, trust me, in this role or in an executive team's role, you can get lost in the sauce, right? You can get very paralyzed or confused on what to do next, or people might have different ideas of what to do next. And your job is to not explain, even if you think, oh, I would probably do this, you pull it out of them. I'm just going to help show you what's already inside you, and then hopefully you'll take steps. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect way to say it.
It's a lot of finesse to do that.
Well, I call this the beard theory. So maybe we can imagine this for the listeners and viewers. There's nothing to show you. You just got to imagine this. I call this the beard theory. The first beard is Sigmund Freud and his beard. And that's therapy. And that's a why question. Why am I this way? Why am I late? Whatever. That's not coaching. I'm not interested in that. It's important, and maybe it comes up, but that's not what coaching is. The second thing is what you're talking about. The second beard is Gandalf. And Gandalf is a mentor. And the mentor says, well, if I were you, Jason, I would do this. Or when I was in your shoes, Jason, I did this. And sometimes that happens in coaching. That's fine. But the third beard is Rick Rubin. And that is what if. And that is now and what could be. And that's what I'm really focused on. And that's what I love to do. And you've got something in you, if you're my coachee, I'm trying to pull that out. And I'm like, great, what can we do with that now? I'm not interested in why you have that idea. I'm not interested in telling you what I would do with the idea. I'm interested in you realizing the potential of your idea.
I love those three beards, by the way. It's very clear. Beard theory. A lot of what I think you probably in this role and what Rick Rubin does is simplifying the goal to its essence.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's shit gets complicated in our business. Like you got to worry about AI or, what brands are asking us, not now anymore, but should they buy land in the metaverse, right? What's happening in social? There's always something new, right? And as a business, you've got to stay back to the fundamentals and lean on your values, but figure out your reason for being and the simple approach that you're going to have and what your differentiator. And it's always hard to do because this business has gotten infinitely harder.
Well, everything you're saying, I think, could not be more relevant to today, what's happening to today, whether it is, from metaverse to AI to whatever's next. I guess, agent, the agentic world of AI that's coming next. But that's why I come back to kind of simple, copywriter things like, what are your words? What do you stand for? If I'm the ultimate driving machine as BMW, whether it's electric, petrol, or hydrogen, I know what we're going to make. And this move, this will be a little bit of my rant and TED talk here, but this move away from taglines is really stupid. And I think clients, brand clients need to come back to, what is your idea? What are your words? Because those words, they're going to be evergreen because there's going to be all kinds of shiny new stuff that's happening. And sometimes in coaching, I have people, what are your words? Like, what's your tagline? What are you thinking about? What's going to be your year of what? I don't believe in resolutions, but your year of what? What's your year of what this year? To come back to that.
I think this is really inspirational because I think the industry's gotten way harder, right? Let's face it, right? There's consolidations, there's efficiencies, client spend is down. This is like sweeping generalizations.
Yeah.
Clients aren't taking as much risk as they used to. How do you pump people up or pull it out of them? Because it's easy to commiserate with your fellow art directors or CEOs or project managers or whatever role you have to say, yeah, it's hard. It's not what it used to be. How do you pull people out of that to find the love and enthusiasm again?
Well, I think I'm jumping to the clients first. And I feel like the clients need some coaching in that. What is the goal here? Mm-hmm. What are you trying to do? And let's get real on this, because some clients, back in the day, I would always, back to listening, I would listen for the most ambitious client. Who's the client that really wants to borrowing from Steve Jobs? Who's the client who wants to make a dent in the universe? Well, not every client's like that. Like you said, they're risk averse now. Okay, great. What's the goal now? What do you want? What do you really want? That's the first thing. And I think once we're clear there, then we can bring that to the team and the agency and be like, friends, this is what the client really wants to do. Let's help them do that.
Do you think we skipped out a lot now?
100%.
Actually finding out what the real goal is?
When's the last time you went to a client, and just sat with them and just said, what do you want to do? My best relationships, anytime I did anything good in my career, I just sat with the clients. We used to do this thing with Nissan. We used to call it wine and cheese. And we bring the clients in for a 6 hour meeting, 6 hours. And wine was spelled WHINE. Tell us all the issues. Here's wine, here's cheese. The agenda is loose. There is no agenda. We just want to hear the problems. And every time we came out of that meeting, we would do something good. But you needed a client that was willing to share, hey, this stuff's driving me crazy. I've got this challenge here. I've got this problem here.
There's so much power in just naming it wine and cheese too. You know what I mean? Because you're not like, we're doing a listening tour, or
Exactly.
you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that sounds fun. I'll go to the half-hour wine and cheese thing, and before you know it, you're spilling your guts, and the agency has more information than they had before, right? Because it's what's not on the page. That's where you really get into what the real problems are.
By the way, that's the soul of it, right? Going back to soul and science,
Yeah.
But I don't think we've gone from being transformational with brands to being transactional, and within the transaction, you're just taking orders. When's the last time you sat down with a client? I'm saying you, but I'm saying generally, like, when's the last time you just, I don't know, had a coffee with your client? When did you show up to where they work and spend half the day there?
I feel like pre-COVID, we would do it all the time. We have to build that muscle back.
You have to build the muscle back, and you kind of have to demand it.
Yeah.
Show up. Just show up. And just fucking shut up and listen.
And don't put a 30-page deck together.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Don't even go down with the deck.
Well, that's another problem we do sometimes, right? Is like you got to spend all the energy prep. It's like, just have a conversation.
The deck is a crutch. If you've got to show me a deck, your idea in a deck, I already know that you don't know what your idea is. I'm going to have to sit through 38 pages. And then at the end of 38 pages, when you ask me what I think on your thanks slide, I'm going to say, okay, remind me again, what are we doing here?
Well, that's why I love a good summary page. I'm just kidding. 38 pages would be a slim deck, I think, actually. What do you think the future of our business is? Can we move from transactional back to transformational? Can we get back to finding the real goal and the ideas that make everything else fall away?
I mean, I don't have a good fancy metaphor. What I see happening is just 90% of the business is going to be systematized. So I think we know the holding companies that are good at that. They're very good at systematizing the data and systematizing the production, and everything's going to be system. And 10% are going to be cool things. And it's going to be cool little agencies, creative companies that are in cahoots with the best clients. And they're still going to make these shiny, clarifying objects. But 90% is going to be a morass of crap.
Can a company do both? Or do you think a company has to either be transactional or be transformational?
I think the majority is going to be transactional, unfortunately, because I'm not sure it's risk aversion. You need some people who want to make a difference, and they're going to want the idea, and they're going to want to attach that to the system. Right now, we sell the system. We love the system. Let us show you our, soup to nuts
proprietary measurement software.
Yeah, we'll just show you our we're selling systems, and we feel really good about that. I call it AS, advertising as a service. We were really into that. But at the end of the day, the interesting clients and the interesting people want to make interesting things that could then be plugged into the system. So I don't want to go to if I'm an agency person, if you want to hire me because we've got a great system, we're not going to have a long relationship. But if you want to work with me because I really care about your business and I care about your career client and I want to help you do amazing things, and oh, by the way, we also have a system, that's who's going to win.
It's plugging it into the system, but starting with the fundamentals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, this has been great. I have one or two more questions for you, Do you have a mantra or a quote that you keep coming back to or that you think about a lot?
I have a funny one and I have a real one. My funny one is don't be a schmuck.
Okay.
But my real one is pay attention. When I think about everything in my life and what I tell my kids every time they walk out the door, which they, for 20 odd years, I've told them this. What I tell my wife when she leaves the house, that's what I tell myself. Pay attention.
You actually say that?
Yes.
That's amazing. Well, Rob, I'm going to just put you on blast on this podcast and say, I can't wait for your book to come out. Coaching, creative CEOing. There's a book in there that I think will help people that you're not coaching reach their human potential. So, pay attention.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. That might be, is that a Gandalf one? I don't know, but it's one of the beards.
I feel like you're Gandalfing and Rick Rubining me. And,
Fine.
and I'm okay with that.
All right, good. Thank you so much for spending time sharing your wisdom. It's been awesome to have you on the Soul and Science podcast. And I can't wait for everyone to tune in. And if they're not careful, they might learn something.
There you go. Well, honored to be here, and thank you for all your really wonderful questions. You brought out the good stuff in me, so thank you.
Of course. Soul and Science is a Mechanism podcast produced by Maggie Bowles, Ryan Tillotson, and Lily Jablonski. The show is edited by Daniel Ferreira with theme music by Kyle Merritt. And I'm your host, Jason Harris.